Hello, and welcome to day 3 of Break Free Edupalooza, an online conference for educators in juvenile justice settings. I'm Roy Middleton from Break Free Education, and it's my pleasure to introduce this workshop, Create a Sustainable Digital Program, presented by Kat Crawford and Dr. Kayla Holland. Kat is a technology innovator for Break Free Education. Kayla is an associate of instructional technology and blended learning for Break Free Education. I'd now like to pass the mic to Kat and Kayla.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for that introduction. My name is Kayla Holland, and I'm here with my colleague, Kat Crawford. And we're going to talk about how to create a sustainable digital program. We believe that creating a sustainable digital program really begins with asking the right questions. So today, we have 5 main questions for you that we're going to talk about in the sustainability categories of recycle, energy, waste, conservation, and resilience. So let's get started with recycle. How can you reuse the knowledge and products of others? That's our question. And we really want to focus on a couple of things. So looking at that idea of how can you reuse knowledge and products of others, there are so many things out there that amazing, creative, innovative people have already created and have put out for the world to use. And so one of my favorite things to do is to belong to teacher networks. These are personal learning networks online. A lot of them exist on social media. So if you are a teacher or an admin or even a tech person and you're on social media, definitely look for a community of people like you teaching your subject area or working in your specific technology field. There's a lot of networks specifically for tech coaches and things like that. But they exist online on social media. They exist in hashtags you can follow or groups you can join on Facebook. And one of the first things that I do when I'm looking for something or I know that I need an activity to go with this specific concept, I will go online to Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and search in all of my teacher networks because there are creative people out there doing wonderful things. So that is definitely one way to reuse and recycle the products of others. Another one is our Break Free initiatives. We create monthly initiatives at Break Free, and we would love for you to modify them and adapt them to use in your class all throughout the year. We definitely support one initiative each month, but that doesn't mean you only can do that initiative once a year during that month. Or maybe you want to just take one of the activities or one of the daily lessons and implement it in another unit that you're teaching. We would love for you to do that, and we would love for you to then let us know that you've done that so we can celebrate that with you. But that's definitely a way you can reuse knowledge and products of others. We create in our initiatives, in the monthly content, student-facing content, lesson plans, it's all there and ready for you to implement during that month that we support the initiative, but also definitely to adapt for others.
I would say another great idea, Kayla, is to create some PLCs within your own state or community. Often our spaces only have one math teacher, and it can feel as if you're isolated from other content kind of creating teachers in your subject area. And so branch out a little bit locally and see if you can find folks in your school districts around you or in other facilities and secure schools across your state. Those PLC communities can be a great source of wealth of content, ideas, templates, and you can just adapt and modify those things to fit your own classroom. And it also just gives you a chance to connect with people in your state who are having to meet the same standards and guidelines. And I think that's a great way to continue to have those design conversations around how they're kind of reaching those standards that might be different than looking across the entire nation. The last one is we actually manage a Break Free Facebook community. So we'll share that link with you, and you can take access to the site by joining, answering just a few questions about yourself, and then we post there multiple times during the week and share out really cool resources that we find that we know that would be perfect for your classroom. And it's a great chance to meet other teachers across the nation who work in secure spaces and just have a vested interest in creating a really interactive, innovative classroom. The next area is energy. How can you build energy around a new technology implementation? And we know this can be a huge challenge. The first thing that we think is really critical is making sure that you have a professional development plan. Whenever you're implementing something and utilizing a new tool, you don't want to have kind of a one and done type of training, because we know being hands-on, testing things in the classroom and then coming back to ask additional questions and sharing out ideas and resources that you've learned is going to be a great way for you to really implement those types of technology, whether they be software or hardware, into your classroom and kind of build them into your practice. So thinking about what that new technology is and how you can design a plan throughout the school year to find that successful implementation is really critical. But before you do that, you kind of have to think a little bit about the power of why. This is almost, if you will, like your mission, vision, everything kind of wrapped into one. And it really sort of guides the work that you're doing when you're implementing new technology. Because if you don't know why you're doing it, it can be really, really hard. And I'm sure those of you that are listening know that our students struggle with this when they're like, why am I learning trig? If you can't sort of figure out why this is so critical for the needs of your students, it's not just, oh, we have to put this in because they have to take an online assessment for the state, but really understanding the power of 21st century learning and the importance of innovation for students, that's going to be really critical to your technology implementation. So if everyone truly embraces and understands the value of why you're doing this, your implementation is going to be that much stronger.
Kat, that's really important. And I think when you think about that solid plan and sharing the why, the next thing to think about is really about badges. You can have digital or physical badges that teachers can earn as part of that PD plan. And I think it's really important when you know the power of the why and you have that great PD plan, teachers understand from their perspective that somebody has created this whole plan for us. This isn't just something somebody decided to do and implement without really thinking about it. There's been a lot of thought going into it. And I mean, everybody knows teachers love earning credit for their work. They love earning badges. I've never met a teacher who doesn't love a sticker. Most of them put it on the back of their device if they're able to do that, you know, that kind of thing. So when we really are able to make learning visible by creating a place where these badges live, then everyone is seeing everyone's progress. And I think that's really important. And you could do that with physical badges. And these are easy to create. I've done them to where I literally just create a sticker with whatever phrase I want and a cute little picture, and you can print those off. And on those label machine, on a printer, those label templates, that's the word I'm looking for, on a printer, and then they become these stickers that you can then assign people, or you can do it digitally. You can create this great Google Doc that has all the icons and badges represented, and you can go in and fill those with color as they go along. The point is to just really make the learning visible, to show that everyone's moving in this direction, and to really highlight the work that teachers are doing. And when you talk about highlighting, the next part is to really celebrate that. Your teachers have earned and deserve celebrations when you're implementing a new technology program and you're trying to build that energy. You can do all kinds of celebrations. You can have a weekly email that goes out, or an announcement, or you have maybe a newsletter where you can give teachers a shout out, or you shout them out in verbally in meetings that you have. There are all kinds of ways where you can celebrate, but that is the important part of affirming teachers, affirming the work that they're doing, showing them that you are seeing all of the effort that they are putting in, really helps create and build that energy. So our next question is waste. So what can you leave behind as you chart into new digital territories? And when you really think about sustainability, you really do think about what is it that we can get rid of? How do we kind of deal with this waste? So the first part is making way for new products and authentic audiences by taking out those assessments. We need to rethink how we assess student knowledge and student learning. And I know if you know me or Kat, you know that we champion creating products and having authentic audiences that really value that work. But it really is true, because having a student create something as a product and have an authentic audience, someone in your facility, or maybe this product is hung up in the hallway, or there's a community member that is a judge, or you're sending it to us at Break Free or something like that, really allows students to take ownership of their own learning and really helps them become highly engaged in the work that they're doing. So by looking at this kind of idea of waste, what can we leave behind? Assessments is really that first thing that you'd want, in my opinion, to leave behind and make way for those new products and those authentic audiences. The next thing to leave behind is that detective mindset. A lot of times we see when people implement a technology program into a juvenile justice facility, they still have this detective mindset. They come in with a one-to-one device program and they're just constantly waiting, constantly watching, and just waiting for a student to make a mistake. And we call that a detective mindset. And that's really one of the things that we could leave behind as we chart into these new territories. And we leave it behind to make way for what we like to call a cheerleading mindset. Because if we're looking for students to make mistakes, then they will. We need to instead create a safe space for students to learn in. We need to use those mistakes as opportunities to create a more positive culture, a more positive mindset. And if we as the teachers come in with a positive mindset towards students using technology in the classroom, then it really does help to create that safe space. And we can reward students for positive behavior. We love to talk about creating a best of wall. We need to affirm students just like we affirm teachers, but we need to affirm students in the good things that they're doing. And maybe that's not always academics. Maybe that is, you've really done well with using your technology this week, or you've really stayed on task, or your handwriting is wonderful, or whatever that is. But maybe there's a place in your classroom or facility that you can have a best of wall that is getting students' work kind of published there. But that idea is to have more of a cheerleading mindset. We want to create that positive culture.
And on that vein, thinking about how students progress through their academic work, digital offerings allow for you to kind of create a digital space where tracking can be done and made visible for students. And so in the past, teachers have always been sort of the recorders of information. And then if a student wants to know what their grades are or kind of how many things they've completed, then they have to check in with the teacher. And one thing that we can really leave behind is that lack of visibility for students to own their own learning. With digital programming, students can go in and check and kind of manage where they are and where they want to be with their own progress. And I think that is an amazing thing that saves a lot of time and discussion for students in the classroom. The last thing, and I think kind of most important area that we talk a lot about, is this idea that we have academic systems in place that when digital tools or technologies come in, they really disrupt what those systems have been created to kind of do. And that can seem very frustrating or challenging for both student and teacher. But remember that those systems were designed by the school and the teacher for students. And new systems can always be designed and learned over time. And so we don't want to rush in and kind of just change everything overnight. But if you have a system in place that says for this number of, worksheet or packet work, you're going to receive this percentage of a grade, those types of things can be redesigned using digital tools, and more innovative, interactive, creative work can replace some of those other types of assignments that you've given in the past. And students just have to know that everything is going to be graded and everything is tied to the same types of standards and content that you've been using before. It's just that the work may look different. And so if you roll that out slowly over time for students, you'll be able to change those academic systems and know that they're not fixed. They're always there for us to reevaluate and redesign. It just takes a little while for implementation to occur. Next is conservation. how can you conserve your sanity to start a digital program and avoid burnout? This is huge because it's so easy to just get really overwhelmed. But one thing that is really great for connection is for technology folks in your district, they can join our Break Free Tech community. We have calls every single month, and we're here, of course, to answer questions that you have when we're not on our calls. So if you run into an issue that needs troubleshooting, we're more than happy to connect you with other people that you can kind of bounce ideas off of or hear how they solve a particular challenge. And so we're working together so that you don't have to recreate the wheel every time, and also to avoid making the same mistakes that others have made in the past. And I think that's really, really powerful. The other piece is similar to kind of the academic systems, is deciding on a pilot program. And why this is critical is you don't want to go from 0 to 100 when you're bringing in digital programming. You want to roll that out over time. And so, we always suggest a small space. So maybe some spaces will start with a classroom or two. Some will say, we have 6 facilities in our state. We're only going to launch this in 1 to begin. As a teacher, you might say, well, we're going to do tech on Tuesdays and Thursdays just to start, and then we'll build it out over time. Because I think going from 0 to 100 can be incredibly overwhelming. As we all know, during the pandemic, a lot of the decisions that we made were at the 100% level. And that, of course, causes a ton of burnout for folks, and can feel really overwhelming. So start small and build your program over time so that you don't run into a lot of different challenges or troubleshooting.
That's really helpful. I think the next thing that you can do is to really create an update and monitor plan. So when you do have your pilot program in, and then you've launched this, as Kat said, 0 to 100, maybe you're at the 100 level, it's in all classrooms, in all facilities, that kind of thing. What is your update and monitor plan going to be? So really looking at that, creating a regular system where you are logging into your admin console and watching for Google updates to come out, because Google does love to update often. And then don't just sign in at the beginning, set everything up, and then just walk away from it and never kind of make adjustments again. Really look at it on a regular basis. Revisit that responsible use policy we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But once you have one in place, revisit that once a year. Get your teachers involved and students involved, asking good questions about, is this practical? Is this applicable? Is it working? Is it not working? What do we need to change? And then, really attend those monthly tech calls, or have your tech person attend them, as Kat was sharing earlier, because we do share all of the Google updates that are taking place. We share any major issues for other web programs that we've heard about, and we talk about what those ramifications are for facilities, and then we talk about possible solutions for them. So just the idea is to really just create a regular system that you're monitoring. And then finally, support your teachers. If you are a facility that has no tech and you're asking people to go one-to-one with tech, that is a big, big change. So really make sure that you have a way to support your teachers. And that really just means being available to check in with your teachers and your staff. If you're a tech person, checking in with teachers, and it's your job as maybe you're a full-time tech coach, or maybe you're a part-time teacher, part-time tech liaison, as I like to call them. Really check in with your teachers. Make sure that you're sending them interesting and good ideas, and then walking alongside of them and helping them implement those good ideas into their space. But if you're a principal, really make sure that you have a place to check in with your staff and your teachers, that they know that you are a support system. And maybe it's as simple as having a temperature check if you have monthly meetings, or you have a place you can literally hang a temperature gauge and let people move where they are. But just really checking in with them, making sure that they understand that as a principal or a tech coach, that this is difficult, and that they can try something and fail, and that's okay. There will not be any ramifications on their job. I think a lot of times teachers really need permission to try something and know that if it doesn't go well, it's going to be okay. So make sure that you're giving them that support and just that permission to try things and see how it goes. Our last piece here is to talk about resilience. How can you build a resilient program that will withstand challenges? And so you can really start by talking about your policies and creating an RUP. And we call an RUP a responsible use policy. And it's basically, a lot of places can't create policy, and you can change that word to a responsible use agreement or a code of conduct contract or whatever the title needs to be. But the idea is, a lot of times when you're implementing a technology program, you're asking kids to sign an acceptable use policy, or the facility or the tech department, somebody is asking them to sign an acceptable use policy. And what we found is those acceptable use policies are literally like 15 to 20 pages long, and they contain lots of legal jargon that students just do not understand. So those responsible use policies are created in kid-friendly language so that students understand what's expected of them. They're asked to sign them, and then teachers are asked to support that responsible use policy, to post it in their classroom, and just make sure that everyone is aware this is the policy that we're going to follow. But even then, you can create other policies, like what is your intake policy going to be? When are you going to create student accounts? And what are your consequences going to be when students make a mistake? And when do students' accounts get suspended? I mean, there's a lot of questions that you can ask. So before you really dive into, as Kat was saying, 0 to 100, while you're doing a pilot program or when you're starting to implement tech in your classroom, that is the time to really set up some of these policies. The next piece I think that's really helpful is to create that purposeful professional development for your teachers. And we've talked about this a little bit already, but really have a plan. If you're a principal or a tech coach, create a plan for the entire school year and make it known to the teachers. Teachers love incentivized gamification. We've talked about that a little bit. So create a plan with a theme that you can live on all year long. I did one year that was called Ain't No Mountain High Enough. And our theme was to get from the base level to the summit with all of these tasks. And of course, there were stickers and badges that people could earn. So it's just creating a theme, creating a plan for the year so nothing is a surprise. It's not like we're going to say, okay, and now we're going to implement this 14th program on the spur of the moment. I think teachers really appreciate understanding the plan. And then, who doesn't love that incentivized gamification? So really have a theme, create games and awards that go along with it, have those digital badges they can earn, but really just have regular professional development that moves teachers from one level to the next in the direction that you're wanting them to go based off that overall plan.
Yeah, that's a really important piece of the puzzle. And once you have the policies and the responsible use policy and the training to really support you, the big piece is the classroom management. Those types of things come into play as you're kind of going through your day-to-day routine with students and thinking about how those routines can really help support all the foundational work that you've done to set up implementation. So I've seen really creative strategies around passing out devices or collecting devices, or when you want students' attention when they have devices. And those all fall under that classroom management piece. So creating those structures for students so that they're familiar and consistent is going to, of course, help you be very successful and kind of go the distance with implementing technology so that you don't get really kind of stressed out when something goes wrong. And we know things are going to break and students are going to test all of our boundaries. And so that classroom management piece is there to help you when those things arise. But last, and I think most important, is figuring out what does your emergency sort of contact card look like? Who do you reach out to when something does go wrong, and who do you have kind of in your back pocket ready to go? Those people that can be immediately responsive, maybe inside of your facility, another teacher or principal to handle a situation. Outside of that, like, who are your tech people that, at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday when you're trying to create a slide deck and something won't work, you can reach out to them and ask them a question. And then on a larger level, sort of thinking about things that people that you can reach out to that might be outside of that. Maybe you're emailing a whole group of teachers nationwide and asking them to help you solve a problem. Because different emergencies are going to arise, and they're all going to be either things you have to respond to in the moment, or late at night, or collectively get a bunch of ideas so that you can make the best decision moving forward. So just think about who those people might be and have them ready. The biggest thing that I have seen over many years of doing this work is that when something happens, we internalize it, we try to solve it by ourselves, and we forget that we're all this incredible collaborative community just waiting to help each other troubleshoot ideas and come up with potential solutions. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to your community and let them solve those emergencies with you so you don't have to do it alone. Well, those are our big sustainable ways that you can implement technology. If you have any questions on some of the ideas that we've brought forward, or you want some help in curating these in your spaces, you can always email us and reach out, or join us in our live sessions where we'll be answering some questions for you.
Thank you so much, Kat and Kayla, for sharing that wonderful presentation with us. As a reminder for everyone who is listening, if you have questions for Kat and Kayla, you can post them as a comment below this video. We also invite you to join us next Wednesday, May 4th at 7 o'clock Eastern for our live session, which will be kicked off by poet and MacArthur Genius Fellow, Dwayne Betts. We will then break into our session Q&A, where Kat and Kayla will be available to answer your questions. You can use the Zoom link available on the Edupalooza website, as well as the one emailed to you this morning. We look forward to seeing you there. And again, thank you so very much for joining us today for Edupalooza Day 3.